Hello there, I'm Nadia Azmi and you are tuning in to Nightline. Here are the news making the headlines. Relationship among parties in unity government is very strong and stable. And US House approves billions of dollars in new military aid for Ukraine and Israel. Good morning. Relationship among the parties in the unity government is now very strong and stable, with each component contributing to strengthening the relationship. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim said that in the face of several issues, all cabinet members had no problem in discussing them, but he admitted that there were issues that had to be negotiated outside the cabinet.
Ya, di luar ada suara-suara yang tidak semestinya mewakili suara pimpinan. Jadi saya harus akui, walaupun ada sedikit sebanyak hal-hal yang kita harus dirundingkan di luar jemaah menteri, tetapi setakat ini, saudara, belum ada petanda keretakan kecil sekalipun di antara PH, UMNO Barisan Nasional dan Sabah Sarawak. Yang ada hanya gerombolan-gerombolan Desperados yang cuba adu domba, dan saya bagi tahu kepada mereka, good luck and goodbye, it will not work.
The Prime Minister said this in response to attacks and criticism from some quarters regarding a number of issues, including Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ahmad Zahid Hamideh's affidavit in support of former Prime Minister Datuk Seri Muhammad Najib Tun Razak's application to obtain permission for a judicial review challenging the existence of an addendum order or supplementary order of the 16th Yang di-Pertuan Agong. Anwar added that the unity government was also accused of not carrying out any changes or reforms when governing the country, as he reiterated the government's commitment to implementing changes according to its ability and wisdom. He said during the year the unity government was in power, the government did not compromise on the independence of the country's judiciary and the strength of the enforcement agencies to act decisively without political interference. Anwar, who is also the PKR president, was speaking at his party's 25th convention in Shah Alam, Selangor on Sunday. This special convention, which was attended by more than 5,000 delegates, including online representatives of Sabah and Sarawak, was held in conjunction with the celebration of the Silver Jubilee of the establishment of PKR, which turned 25 on April 4th. On PKR, the party president reminded all party members at state, division and branch levels to strengthen the party machinery by closely monitoring the implementation of programs, including the Kerangka Kerja Keadilan Menang Siri PRU 16, Kemas 16 and Pemberkasaan Organisasi Parti 25 Tahun POP 25 initiatives, which were launched on Sunday. Anwar said the party machinery must ensure an increase in party membership and the state leadership councils, MPN, must be more active and robust than before.
Saudara tahu, hebat sebagaimanapun lawangan kita, benar bagaimanapun perjuangan kita, tetapi kalau tidak disusun dengan rapi, dengan jentera yang kemas, kita akan tewas dengan orang-orang yang melaungkan slogan-slogan hidup Melayu atau laksanakan Islam, walaupun kita tahu rekod mereka itu hambar belaka.
Kemas 16 is a framework for PKR's preparation for the 16th general election by strengthening grassroots organizations through structured and periodic programs, following a social enterprise template as part of its strategic work towards GE16. POP 25, on the other hand, is a structured work framework that aims to increase PKR's membership, establish more party branches, create a trained communications machinery, and implement leadership training at the state level. On any decision regarding the addendum order for Najib's house arrest, Anwar said he would not interfere in the matter despite being criticised for doing nothing, as it must be made in the meeting of the Pardons Board.
Ini menyinggung peranan lembaga pengampunan dan titah wewenang yang di-Pertuan Agong. Itu jawapan yang bagi saya mengikut perbincangan dengan Peguam Negara. dan juga maklumat daripada Sultan dan Di-Pertuan Agong. Tapi pendirian kita tu tuntas bahawa keputusan mesti dibuat di dalam mesyuarat lembaga pengampunan dan keputusan muktamad yang Di-Pertuan Agong dalam mesyuarat lembaga pengampunan.
On Friday, Anwar affirmed that the government respected the independence of the Pardons Board, chaired by the King, and would not intervene in its decisions. When met by the media later, the Prime Minister spoke about the May 11th Kuala Kubu Baru by-election. According to him, the MIC will assist the unity government to campaign in the Selangor state seat polls. Anwar said that MIC President Tan Sri S.A. Vigneswaran has personally made the commitment, and with that, there was no truth that the MIC was boycotting the by-election.
Tak betul. Tak betul. Presiden MIC telefon saya beritahu dia akan pergi esok Isnin. Dia dengar apa siapa?
Anwar was responding to reports that Vigneswaran hinted that MIC will not help the unity government campaign for the by-election if a BN candidate is not fielded. Similarly, it was also reported that the MCA released a statement saying it does not want to be involved in any campaigns in the by-election. The draft Memorandum of Understanding MOU regarding the allocation of funds to opposition members of Parliament is still being refined by the Unity Government Secretariat Supreme Leadership Council. Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Seri Fadilah Yusof said that the preparation of the draft must go through several stages before a final decision is made.
Biar kami draftkan dululah. Bila siap draft dan dipersetujui, kita akan agihkan pada pihak pemangkang. Dan mereka akan menilai sama ada bersetuju ataupun ada pindaan dan sebagainya. Bila sudah, baru kita akan bawa final decision lah.
Fadilah said that the contents of the draft are still under review and will only be disclosed upon consensus among all parties involved. He also did not specify the expected timeline for completing the draft. Last Wednesday, the Unity Government Secretariat Supreme Leadership Council meeting, chaired by Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim, has agreed to distribute the allocation to opposition members of Parliament. The Defence Ministry MINDEF is prepared to deploy the Malaysian Armed Forces personnel to the Middle East to provide support in handling the safety of Malaysian students following the Iran-Israel conflict. Deputy Defence Minister Adli Zahari said MINDEF would discuss with the Foreign Ministry and obtain information on the latest developments of the situation in the Middle East.
Jadi buat masa ini kita tak terima apa-apa permohonan itu, tapi dalam masa yang sama kita akan terus berkomunikasi dengan Kementerian Luar lah, sebab biasanya pelajar-pelajar kita yang terlibat adalah Kementerian Pengajian Tinggi dan juga Kementerian Luar Negara.
Adli spoke to the media during the Jiwa Community Madani program and the Madani Hari Raya celebration held in Kota Baru, Kelantan. On Friday, Israel launched an attack on Iran after Tehran launched 300 drones and missiles toward Israel last weekend, which was mostly intercepted. Iran unleashed the massive aerial strike in retaliation for a suspected Israeli attack on its consulate in Damascus early this month. The study on price stabilization of goods in Sabah, Sarawak and Labuan will take 6 months, and the report will be presented at the Stabilization Committee meeting in August this year. Domestic Trade and Cost of Living Minister Dato' Armizan Muhammad Ali said Universiti Malaysia Sabah, UMS, and Universiti Malaysia Sarawak, UNIMAS, which have been tasked with conducting the study, have submitted their initial proposal papers on April 19th.
Ia akan melibatkan implikasi kos logistik. Jadi ada kemungkinan kita mengharapkan supaya tanaman tertentu, sumber bekalan tertentu yang boleh dirintis untuk dikeluarkan di Sabah dan Sarawak sendiri. Jadi itulah perlunya kajian tersebut supaya kita dapat mengambil pendekatan strategi dan pendekatan jangka panjang.
Armizan said the study would involve 5 main areas in Sabah and Labuan, including Kudat, the West Coast, the interior, Sandakan, Tawau and Labuan. In Sarawak, it will involve 3 northern regions, namely Miri, Bintulu, Limbang, 4 regions in Sibu, Sarike, Mukah and Kapit, as well as 5 regions in western Sarawak, namely Kuching, Kota Samarahan, Surian, Sri Aman and Betong. He also said that the study findings will be shared with the governments of Sabah and Sarawak, as well as the Federal Territories Development Department, adding that this is crucial as price issues are closely linked to food security and supply. Indonesia's Mount Ruang volcano crisis has prompted the cancellation of 214 flights in and out of Sabah and Sarawak. According to the Transport Ministry, the cancellation of all the flights affected a total of 33,864 passengers who went in and out of the 2 states involved for a period of 2 days last Thursday and Friday following the eruption. The thick ash eruption is feared to affect the surrounding airspace, forcing airlines to temporarily halt flights. 4 airlines, namely Malaysia Airlines, Air Asia, Batik Air and Firefly, had to cancel all flights involving Sabah and Sarawak. The airlines had initially attempted to restore flight operations on Friday, but had to cancel it after taking into account the weather conditions and operational safety. The eruption, which forced thousands of nearby residents to evacuate as lava flowed into their villages, began spewing ash a few hours later and was followed by plumes of smoke 400 meters above the summit. Mass shooting at US's Memphis block party leaves 2 dead. News from the foreign front when we return.
Kau agak apa tu, Mai?
Bos.
Assalamualaikum, Abang Haji.
Pihak polis tu tanya, nama siapa? Entah. Taruh entah.
Mak Lim makan minum air tu kan? Kalau dia minum air tu, dia mesti syok aku.
Apa kata? Kita rosakkan gerai dia.
Kita kena saman dia biar dia sampai papa ke dana.
Jumpa satu tempat tu, macam gugusan buah anggur, berlapis-lapis puyuk ke. Makanan tradisional ni harus diteruskan supaya anak cucu cicit kita boleh merasai sendiri keenakan lemang puyuk kera ni.
Saya tanya dia, apa sakit? Curi. Kotak pensel. Saya curi kotak pensel untuk anak saya. Sudah. Berjurai air mata saya sebab saya menolong dia. Budak tu dah menjadi seorang peguam.
Stream sekarang melalui Tonton.
Pembunuhan yang paling kejam yang pernah berlaku di negara ini lah.
Dia diseksa. Itu yang saya tak boleh nak lupa.
Keadaan masa tu nampak kelang kabut sikit.
Memang sedih.
Kes itu menggemparkan negara.
Ada sesuatu sedang berlaku di sana lah. Kita nak cari kebenaran.
Menyoroti kes-kes yang pernah menggemparkan dunia dan Malaysia, segalanya akan dirungkai dalam Fail Mahkamah setiap Rabu 9 malam. Terbaharu di TV3 dan stream sekarang ditonton.
Welcome back. The U.S. House of Representatives has approved billions of dollars in new military aid for Ukraine to help combat Russia's invasion. The much-delayed measure had vocal opponents in Congress, and it took a fragile bipartisan deal to get the $61 billion package through. It is understood that the package will now go to the Senate, which is expected to pass it within the next few days before President Joe Biden signs it into law. Alongside replenishing weapons and ammunition systems, Ukraine will also receive more than $9 billion of economic assistance in the form of forgivable loans, ones that do not need to be paid back. Reacting to the Saturday's vote, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky described the support as vital, saying the aid would keep the war from expanding and save thousands of lives. Meanwhile, the U.S. House of Representatives also passed a $17 billion defense aid to Israel. Most of the allocation would go toward replenishing and expanding Israel's missile and rocket defense system, purchasing advanced weapons systems and the U.S. operations in the region amid the Gaza war. The bill will also prohibit funds going to the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, which provides support to Palestinian refugees. Also in the U.S., 2 people were killed and at least 6 others were injured in a block party shooting in Memphis, Tennessee, late Saturday. The incident occurred at a street party in the Orange Mound neighborhood at around 7 p.m. local time, where up to 300 people were gathered. Officers found 5 victims with gunshot wounds, 2 males who were pronounced dead and 3 other victims who were taken to the hospital in critical condition. Multiple other gunshot victims later arrived at the hospitals in private vehicles, with one of the 6 injured in critical condition early Sunday. The investigation into the shooting remains ongoing, with no suspects in custody. Palestinian civil defense crews have uncovered a mass grave inside the Nasser medical complex in Gaza's Khan Yunis, with 180 bodies recovered so far, as Israel has continued bombardment of the devastated coastal enclave for more than 6 months. Palestinian emergency services said their teams would continue their search and retrieval operations for the remaining martyrs in the coming days. The discovery comes after the Zionist regime withdrew its troops from the southern city. Meanwhile, the Zionist strikes on the southern Gaza city of Rafah overnight killed 22 people, including 18 children. According to officials, the first Israeli strike in Rafah killed a man, his wife and their 3-year-old child, and the second strike killed 17 children and 2 women. India, staging the world's biggest election, will rerun voting at 11 polling stations in the northeastern state of Manipur on Monday after reports of violence and damage to voting machines in the state torn by months of ethnic clashes. According to the Chief Electoral Officer of Manipur, the election authorities declared the voting void and ordered a repoll to be conducted at 11 polling stations between 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. local time. The stations are located in the Kurai, Tongju, Uripok, Kontujam and Kshitegao assembly constituencies, where at least 6 of the polling stations saw instances of mob violence, riots and unidentified men casting votes on behalf of voters. Due to the incidents, the polling in these booths had been vitiated to a point that results from there cannot be ascertained. The first phase of voting in Manipur on Friday was marred by reports of gunfire, mob violence and armed men roaming around polling stations in the presence of security personnel, with many voters also complaining of intimidation. Major rivers, waterways and reservoirs in China's Guangdong province are threatening to unleash dangerous floods, forcing the government on Sunday to enact emergency response plans to protect more than 127 million people. Calling the situation grim, local weather officials said sections of rivers and tributaries at the Xizang and Beijiang river basins are hitting peak water levels that only happen once in 50 years. Following this, Guangdong officials has urged departments in all localities and municipalities to begin emergency planning to avert natural disasters and promptly disperse disaster relief funds and materials in order to ensure affected people have food, clothing, water and a place to live. The province has seen torrid downpours and strong winds since Saturday evening due to severe convective weather, which has affected several parts of China over the past few weeks. The 12-hour stretch of heavy rain starting from 8 p.m. local time late Saturday also battered the central and northern parts of the province in Shaoxing, Shaoguan, Xingyuan and Jiangmen, damaging power facilities and cutting power to some places. Verstappen cruises to another victory. Actions from F1 Chinese Grand Prix after this breather.
Indah macam dulu-dulu riang-riang sisimu indah macam dulu-dulu aku rindu rasa macam dulu-dulu rasa tanpa rasa rasa macam dulu-dulu aku rindu.
Terbaru ditonton.
Markas Back to One ini ditubuhkan kerana ibu dan ayah Zack yang telah disantau sehingga busung.
Kami ni dari Pemburu Saka.
Kami habis sibuk dengan Saka tu.
Pemburu Saka.
Muat turun dan layan tonton sekarang. Semua favourite anda di sini.
Menyamar OKU, mengemis simpati.
Tolonglah, aku minta maaf.
Ambil kesempatan kaut hasil lumayan.
Tak ada yang tak beli beri. Orang tak beli tapi bagi duit. Ni duit banyak tu ni.
Saksikan 999 Selasa jam 9 malam di TV3 dan stream sekarang melalui Tonton.
We're back with sports, the 2024 Chinese Grand Prix. Red Bull's Max Verstappen won his first race at Shanghai International Circuit in 5 years on Sunday to extend his World Championship lead. The three-time world champion dominated the race on his return to the circuit for the first time since 2019 to finish ahead of McLaren's Lando Norris with teammate Sergio Perez third. The Dutchman was only denied a 100% point-scoring weekend when Fernando Alonso picked up the bonus for the fastest lap. It was another all-conquering display from Verstappen, who won his 4th Grand Prix this season and the 58th of his career. He increased his lead over Perez at the top of the Drivers' Championship to 25 points, marching slowly towards his 4th consecutive world title. Red Bull, meanwhile, pulled 44 points clear of Ferrari in the Constructors' standing. Turning to football, the English FA Cup. Bernardo Silva fired Manchester City back into the final as the Portugal midfielder's late strike sealed the holders' 1-0 win against Chelsea on Saturday. The Pep Guardiola side were the second best for long periods of the semi-final clash, as Mauricio Pochettino's men missing a number of chances to take the lead, with forward Nicholas Jackson the main culprit. Despite this, Silva delivered the knockout blow in the 84th minute after Chelsea goalkeeper Djordje Petrovic parried a Kevin De Bruyne shot, and that was enough to edge a hard-fought affair that left Pochettino waiting for the season to end. City will meet Manchester United or second-tier Coventry City in the showpiece match on May 25th. The German Bundesliga now. Bayern Munich tuned up for their Champions League semi-final against Real Madrid with a comfortable 5-1 win away against Union Berlin on Sunday. The scoring frenzy began on the half-hour mark when Leon Goretzka thumped in a powerful shot just under the woodwork, before Harry Kane bagged his 33rd league goal of the season just before the interval with a 30-metre free kick. Thomas Müller then made it 3-0 in the 53rd minute by finishing Eric Maxim Choupo-Moting's perfect cross from close range. Just after the hour mark, teenager Mathis Telle slotted home Kane's pass into the far post before the rampant Bavarians added their 5th goal through Müller's sublime header. Jobre Bertessen scored a late consolation for Union, who are 3 points above the relegation playoff spot. After Bayer Leverkusen clinched the title last weekend, Bayern's only hope of a trophy this season remains the Champions League. Coming up, bid to smuggle 18 million ringgit cigarettes foiled.
Indah macam dulu-dulu riang-riang sisimu indah macam dulu-dulu aku rindu rasa macam dulu-dulu rasa tanpa rasa rasa macam dulu-dulu aku rindu
Menyamar OKU, mengemis simpati.
Tolonglah, aku minta maaf.
Ambil kesempatan kaut hasil lumayan.
Tak ada tak beli beri.
Orang tak beli tapi bagi duit. Ni duit banyak Cun ni.
Saksikan 999 Selasa jam 9 malam di TV3 dan stream sekarang melalui Tonton.
Malaysia hari ini sepanjang minggu.
Bagi penggemar makanan yang bercegerang, baru ini tulah tentang kupang. Tapi dengan cerita ada toksin. Apakah puncanya?
Kesan campuran bakas hilang kepada kucing. Adakah ia satu bentuk penganiayaan?
Tak habis lagi tentang isu skam pelaburan, tapi dengan cerita lelaki lebih banyak yang tertipu.
Soal wang membincangkan tentang akaun ketiga KWSP. Apa yang perlu kita cakna?
Isnin hingga Jumaat, 9.30 pagi hingga 10.30 pagi.
Di TV3 juga stream melalui Tonton.
Welcome back. In Johor, cigarette smugglers attempt to conceal the contraband in toy boxes in 2 shipping containers in Tanjung Pelepas Port, Gelang Patah were foiled recently. Customs Deputy Director General for Enforcement and Compliance, Datuk Sazali Muhammad, said 18.5 million ringgit worth of cigarettes with tax and duties were seized. The cigarette packs were put in the same packaging boxes as the toys, which were placed in front of the container, while the cigarettes in the toy boxes were hidden at the back. The first container, which arrived at the port on March 26, had 924 cigarette packs and 36 boxes of toys. The second container, which arrived on April 4th, had 915 cigarette packs and 33 toy boxes. Initial investigations revealed that the modus operandi of the syndicate involved importing shipments from Cambodia for delivery to Mexico, and both shipments were believed to involve the same smugglers. The seized cigarettes were valued at 3.6 million ringgit, with estimated tax. Meanwhile, 2 men who tried to smuggle out liquor from the Forest City duty-free complex on April 15th were arrested by customs officers after a high-speed chase. The officers seized 38,410 ringgit worth of liquor from 3 multi-purpose vehicles MPV used by the smugglers. It was reported that the MPVs were boxed in at Lebuh Raya Iskandar Putri and in Jalan Utama in Kampung Baru Senai at about 10 p.m. 2 drivers were detained while another fled on foot. The MPVs were fitted with false registration numbers, and investigations are ongoing to trace their owners. The 2 drivers have been released on 10,000 ringgit bail each. In the second incident on April 2nd, the Customs Department raided a terrace house in Skudai, believed to be used for manufacturing bootlegged liquor. Although the syndicate members had fled, barrels containing bootlegged alcohol, legitimate liquor bottles, bottling equipment and forged customs stamps were found at the house. Also found in the house were forged customs' banderole or seal stamps. They are used to indicate the alcoholic beverage were legal and their duties and taxes paid. The seized alcohol was valued at about 41,000 ringgit, with estimated duties of almost 112,111 ringgit, totaling 153,111 ringgit. Investigations to trace the house owner were underway. In Terengganu, a husband and wife were charged in the Kemaman Sessions Court with allegedly neglecting their daughter to the point of causing her death. The accused, Shaflina Azli Shahdan and Azman Awang, aged 46 and 47, nodded in understanding as the charges were read out to them before Judge Wan Suhaila Muhammad. According to the charges, both of them allegedly neglected the victim, 14-year-old Azrina Queen, to the extent that she died from pneumonia. The offence was alleged to have been committed at a residence in Taman Alam Perdana Binjai, Kemaman between 9:30 p.m. and 10:45 p.m. on November 2nd last year. Judge Wan Suhaila allowed both the accused to be released on bail of 3,000 ringgit each with one surety and set May 30th as the next mention for the case. That concludes Nightline this time around. And before we leave, let's take a look at an exhibition titled The Phoenix Kingdoms, The Last Splendor of China's Bronze Age, which showcases more than 260 works from ancient Chinese Chu and Zheng kingdoms unearthed from tombs in the central Chinese province of Hubei. I'm Nadia Azmi. Thank you for tuning in and have a great week ahead.